You're going to see a fairly lean and pretty destructive budget, I think would be the right word, because a lot of the districts aren't postured and don't have the financial resources to make up the cuts that are going to occur. They haven't had a raise in a long time. Their costs are going up.
You're talking specifically about
That's
school
districts. That's right. So it's going to be tough.
We've already seen the SEEK formula drop, I think, by about $39 per student over the last 4 years. I think it's $39 per student less than it was in 2009. Do you think that will have to drop again?
It might.
What does that do to the state of Kentucky?
Well, it does quite a bit, and it does quite a bit to districts like mine, which are considered poor districts and need all the resources that they can. You know, we're starting now to see the education reforms that were put into place over the last 2 decades take effect. Everything's going up.
Is that at risk of being undermined by this?
I think it is. I think it is.
So why is that now not the right time for tax reform then, or some kind of additional funding to help the economy grow?
Well, you know, you could use those facts to create that scenario, I think.
In addition to education funding, are there other areas of funding that you think are at particular risk in this next budget?
There's no question. Our the programs that we use as a social safety net to protect our most vulnerable people. You know, we've had, I think, 19 child care centers that have closed. We need about $90 million to reopen them. That's state money, and we don't have $90 million to spend right now. So, you know, those are critical needs, and that's just a big glaring one. I mean, if you look at the community health centers, they haven't received a raise in their rates, I think, in 19 years, 20 years.
Right.
They're being asked to pay more into the pension system, and yet their reimbursement rates are the same. They haven't expanded any. Now, they do get a break with the Affordable Health Care Act because there's going to be some coverage in place, but remember that private individuals can also render now services because and be reimbursed at a Medicaid rate. So
right, because the law requires
right.
coverage to include
Yes.
mental health and substance abuse.
So what effect does that have on the mental health facilities?
Well, that should have a positive effect, right?
Unless those who've been stifled from salary increases and so on and so forth, who have licensed psychological degrees or go out into private practice, because there will now be a pool of people in the private sector who can render those services and be reimbursed for them because of the changes in the law. So we don't know what effect that's going to have. It should be positive overall to the health of the class of people that are covered. But let me give you a scenario. What happens if the private folks take the not so sick people and the really sick people continue to stay in the community mental health systems? Then that's an additional burden on the community mental health systems.
And
a
what
lot
kind
of things
help
out
could the
there.
state offer to that? What kind of help could the state offer if that's the case?
Well, they could obviously increase their reimbursement rates. I mean, that would be the first thing. They haven't had a raise in, I think it's 19 years. They have a very persuasive case that they need help.
So as you look at these priorities, you also have the pension system, the teachers' retirement system coming, saying, hey, we need about $390 million the first year, $400 million the second year, to help us from falling into the hole that the Kentucky retirement system had found itself into. So as you look at all that, how do you kind of rank the priorities of what you'd like to see get funded?
Well, I've always been a proponent of public education.
So education first.
Education first.
And what's your goal? Keep SEEK funding the same?
I'd like to see us increase SEEK funding. I'd like to see us be able to give some sort of cost of living increase to our teachers and those in our public schools. I'd like to see us restore, if we could, some of the cuts that have been made to higher education. I'd like to see us expand, for example, the scholarship program that I've been pushing for Eastern Kentucky for Cole County kids. I'd like to see us be able to do some of the things in the area of health and human services that need to be done to stop, you know, people. I'd like to see us reopen the child care centers. You know, how can people work if they don't have child care, and these centers provided a way for them to be able to get a job, take their children and go perform the task of their job. So, you know, those are the type of things that I think are essential.
So additional
state
money to the
government.
retirement system and the teachers' retirement system, that is not in your top priority
Well,
list.
That's a moving target. No, I mean, we're obviously not going to let that system fail. But there's some moving pieces to that may or may not require that much money. The one thing that has come about in a positive manner from the pension crisis is that education was spread out to the entire General Assembly. You know, for a long time, and I was as guilty as anybody, we gave very liberal benefits, we gave cost of living increases, we did a whole lot of things, and we really didn't understand what the ramifications were. Even though those things at the time were deemed actuarially sound, you know, nobody saw the bad recession coming, nobody saw the huge losses that they incurred. So I think legislators will view the pension systems in a very different light now. Instead of just accepting that this is going to happen or it's not going to happen, you're going to see a lot of people who have expertise to look at it and determine what they really need and you know, what their course should be as they go forward.
Well, the head of the teachers' retirement system has suggested, hey, we don't even need cash. We'll take other stuff like assets, state assets. Is that something that is
I don't
legitimate?
think so.
No, that's not going to happen?
No, it's not going to happen. Okay.